So I'm here today with Matt Arnstein. Matt helps me out at my meets, and I'm sure Matt's had a huge amount of wealth of knowledge gained over the last few years. And I know you've done a number of other training courses with other service providers as well. Matt, can you let the listeners know a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, for sure. So I originally got into property kind of way back when. I literally kind of came out of university with my partner at the time. We bought a dilapidated one-bed flat, renovated that, and then used the equity in that to buy a second property, which we were gonna flip with an exit of renting it out. That was pretty much beginning of 2008, I think, exactly when the crash happened. So we ended up having to activate the exit strategy and rented that property, which we just sort of sat on for a long time because the market was in such a bad place, and I really had no understanding of the industry from a professional's point of view. So we just sort of sat on that for a long time, and it wasn't until 2014 when I really sort of learned about how to buy property in the professional property industry, which which takes us forward to today.
Sure. So where initially was that investment, Matt? Was it in Liverpool? I know you're based partially in Liverpool.
Yeah, sure. No, that was just local to me now, really. So I've been born and bred in around Kingston upon Thames. So that first flat we bought was in a little town called Surbiton, just next door to Kingston, and then the second property that we bought was in another sort of little town just out towards Esher called Hinchley Wood.
Okay, so in terms of your investment right now, up to date, am I right in saying you've got two business models as such, rent to rent in the south, and up north in Liverpool, it's more of single units?
Yep, that's exactly that. Yep, we've got our rent-to-rent HMOs in southwest London, and then the principle being that the money we make from the rent-to-rent goes towards investing in properties that we own in Liverpool, where the yields are that much higher.
But when you say the yields are much higher, do you mind delving into what's a bit higher? And also, it's interesting that you have gone all the way up to Liverpool from London, which is a bit of a trek to say the least. And the follow-up question is, why Liverpool in the first place?
Okay, sure. Well, I did Tigam training, or what's now called legacy training, in 2015, and they sort of really drummed it into you to look around the country and see what return on investments and what yields you get in different places around the country are, not just always just to sort of invest close to home, because it's not that important that you have your properties on your doorstep, because they run pretty much by themselves once you've got them. So we started to have a look and see what the numbers were like in and around the north of the country. And then someone told me very basically that, say, for example, if you had £500,000 cash in London, you could probably buy a two-bedroom flat and get £1,500 rent for it. Whereas if you look up north, you could, with £500,000, you could buy 10 houses and you could get £500 each, which is £5,000. So there's a massive difference in income, in cash flow, if you go up north compared to down south. Now, admittedly, you probably don't get the capital appreciation, but cash flow wise, going up north is a lot better.
Can we look at the capital appreciation though of Liverpool in terms of Liverpool is a growing city. I've never been to Liverpool, so I'm bluffing a bit, but I keep hearing about Liverpool quite a bit from yourself, not just from yourself. Gavin Barry, I know he's invested in Liverpool, and of course it's got two football teams as well. It's got universities. It's also a noted city as such. I think it's been a city of culture at some point in its recent history. Why Liverpool, though, Matt? Why not Manchester? Why not Birmingham?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we had a little look, and Manchester had already seemed to have had quite a spike by 2015, whereas Liverpool hadn't. And then we started to look at the development projects, and admittedly, there's some big development projects going on around the north, especially in and around the places that are getting HS2, so Crewe, I think Stoke, and Hull will have capital of culture this year or next year. But the development projects that are going on in Liverpool are huge. I mean, there is billions and billions of pounds being spent in Liverpool. At least, like, you've got 5.5 billion being spent by a private company to renovate the dockside. The big one that's just happened this year is that the docks have been expanded. So previously, Liverpool was a massive shipping town, and all the big ships would come from America with their stock and come into Liverpool, and then the stock get distributed from there. But over time, as the ships got bigger, the docks obviously didn't get any bigger. But in the last couple of years, they've been digging out the docks. So now all those big ships from America won't need to bypass Liverpool and go off to Denmark and down to Southampton. They can come straight into Liverpool and get into the docks, and that will create huge amounts of warehousing and jobs in the north of the city. So that one thing alone is a huge development. But there's countless others going on, and at least there's a big one by Peel Ports that are putting in £5.5 billion of private money into the Liverpool side. They've got another £4.5 billion that they've reserved for the Birkenhead, Wallasey side. So massive development projects going on in Liverpool.
Look, if there's someone listening to this interview, and hopefully there will be someone, but let's say they're thinking of investing specifically in Liverpool, what did you learn from investing that you didn't know beforehand? Is it the fact that there's quite a lot of developments going on? Are all your single lets in the same location in Liverpool as well?
No, we've kind of got relatively spread around. Most are in the north of Liverpool, where where the houses are much cheaper, but again, the capital appreciation isn't as much. And then we've got one that's sort of a bit more down south. Liverpool's quite kind of split into two halves. You've got South Liverpool and North Liverpool. South Liverpool's kind of the posher, or the posh area, and North Liverpool is the more sort of working class area. So the capital appreciation in South Liverpool can be quite good, actually, but in North not so much at the moment, but certainly I think in the next 10, 20, 50 years there will be massive growth in that city.
So we've gone into some detail about Liverpool, which is fantastic for listeners who are considering investing in Liverpool. We've looked at the north and south side of Liverpool, and in terms of looking at the how you manage the properties in Liverpool, because you're based in London, so do you have a letting agency which looks after it, or what do you do to principally keep the property running as best as possible by being based in London, or you don't really see that as an issue because it's a single let and much less issues than with a HMO?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, we built up a small power team. So in fact, even our solicitor is Liverpool based. We got a good a builder at last. So we had to go through a good few builders to find a good one. We did get one, but now we're in the place where we'll literally, we'll complete on a property. We'll send, maybe we'll pick up the keys if we're there. Otherwise, we send the builder to go and get the keys. The builder gets the keys, does the work, returns the keys to our letting agent, and it is really hands off.
And how did you find that letting agent in Liverpool? There's hundreds of letting agencies in London, maybe there's thousands in London rather than hundreds, and there's probably hundreds, maybe even more than that in Liverpool. So and not all letting agencies are the same as well. They've got different ethos, different emphasis. So what made you work with one letting agency rather than another?
Sure. Well, this listing agent got recommended through our builder, actually, who he met at the BNI meetings. He recommended him. We went to see him, and they told us about their business. And they were very very progressive. They don't even have like any paper forms. Everything is systemized. Everything is on computers. Everything's done by email and auto sign. So it made life that much easier for us. Being in London to work with them, that everything was digitalized. And so far they've been really great. They've got a great guy that does all the maintenance, looks after the tenants. He's really good on the emails, great communicator. So we've been really happy with them. But yeah, it all just came from a recommendation.
Okay, so we've looked at Liverpool, and I know I've been more exclusive to Liverpool almost in this interview than London. In London, it's mostly rent to rent. What's your experience of rent to rents, Matt?
My experience of rent to rents, it's hard work, but good fun. There's a lot of turmoil at the moment with the rent to rent thing, because there's rumours or there's potential changes in the HMO market, where they're gonna stricken up the HMO health and safety. So I don't know if you know, but at the moment, obviously, all only properties that are three stories high really have to have the fire doors, the expensive fire doors, and the fire alarms. There's rumours that there's going to be changes. So every HMO, whether it be a bungalow or a flat, or your standard 2-story family house, is going to need an HMO license. So it's interesting times at the moment, because it could be all change.
And Matt, so looking at your best business nugget, what's the best bit of advice you've been given, whether it's been in property or whether it's in business in general, or whether it's is there a particular best bit of business advice you've been given?
What springs to mind is something that I really didn't have any conscious of before. Was someone told me, or I read, that the premise of the rich, they work for money, and they invest them, and then they invest their money, and they live off the money they make from their investments. Whereas the general public, they go to work, they earn their money, they spend their money. And that's that was a big difference for me. Learning that was a big sort of aha moment. And it's a great principle to live to. So that's what we're what we're pushing at the moment. It's not always the easiest thing to do, but once the premise is there, hopefully it becomes easier, and then it'll become a moral for life.
And how do you keep up to date, Matt? I know you read and so forth. We were talking about that beforehand. What are you reading right now, or have read in the last year, which you thought was a good read? Whether you read books, or whether you go through audiobooks like Audible.
Yeah, so I do a lot of driving. Certainly, obviously, to Liverpool and back a lot of the time. So audiobooks are great. What I've been really enjoying recently is the Disruptive Entrepreneur podcast by Rob Moore and Progressive. That's really, really good, because he reads a lot, and it's very good at sort of summing up the general points, and and then explaining them in his understanding through his podcast. And he's got great interviews on there, so that's a really good source of information to keep interested. I've read quite a bit of self-development or listened to. So the Chimp Paradox was a really good one for me. Really,
Steve Peters.
Professor Steve Peters.
So yeah. Steve Peters, for the listeners, if you don't know, was, I think, coach for the British cycling team, certainly involved in the cycling team of Great Britain, and definitely was involved with Ronnie O'Sullivan as well. So he's a very noted snooker player. Well, he's one of the world's leading snooker players. And he quotes Steve Peters as being a major influence on him. So that's interesting, because I think I've read some of Steve's work, know who he is. So Looking at your best investment for below £100, Matt, what would it be?
I've got to say, actually, going with that Steve Peters theme, if you can pick up the Chim Paradox for £7 or £8, that is definitely definitely a good a good investment.
And looking at the software which you use, because you mentioned before we did this interview some software which I've not come across before. So you mentioned an app called My.
Yeah, it's My Property app. It's a website rather than the app. I think it's still in the better sort of stages at the moment. So I don't think there's a sort of an app store app as of yet. But the website is My Property app. It's a subscription-based website. It was built by a Tigrant student, and it's just very good at sort of like monitoring all your viewings, and then you plug in your sort of your offer, and then really good at just keeping track of all your offers that you've got out, and then it will message you every day and tell you which ones you have to resubmit and where you're at, and you can just see all your offers in one place.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's very well organised. Difficult to explain, but it's been very well built, and the guys who built it is really helpful, and there's lots of sort of support with it, so it's well worth the money.
So we've looked at the best big Nick Nugget. We've looked at your investments in Liverpool, more so than rent to rent in London. We've also looked at best investment for 100, your software, the books you'd recommend, and you gave a huge rave review for Steve Peters' book, Dr. Steve Peters. Let's consider, for people who are brand new to the industry, what strategies would you say they should look at? Is there particular strategies? What made you look at rent to rent, for example? Why rent to rent rather than other strategies? What really got you excited about rent to rent?
What really got me excited about rent to rent was basically that there was relatively low entry costs, and relatively good profits on the back of it. I mean, it is labour intensive, so there is strategies that are more passive than others. I'd say rent to rent isn't one of the ones that is passive, but I mean, I'm self-employed, so I had the time to put into it. So it worked. It worked for me. It was a good balance, and it meant that I could sort of get into the industry close to home. So,
Matt, I just want to say huge thanks for you taking time out this morning. I look forward to seeing you at my upcoming meets. So when I say my upcoming meets, I run Central London morning and property meets. Central London evening meets take place at the London Bridge Hotel. Depending on when you're listening to this, the key thing to note is the Central London evening meet takes place on the third Thursday of the month, apart from August and December. And Wandsworth takes place on the third Tuesday of the month, apart from August and December. And right now, at the moment, I'm working on the anniversary date for Wandsworth, which is on the 18th of April. That's my 7th year anniversary. And the other key thing which I'm working on is my one-day event, which will be, in terms of recent one-day events, my third one-day event of the last year. So it's going to be on Saturday, June the 10th. Easy to get to. It's in central London, near Blackfriars Bridge. And rather than me rattle on about my key dates, I just want to say huge thanks to you, Matt, this morning. I want to say huge thanks to listeners as well. And as I say, it's been a fascinating interview, particularly to go into depth about what's happening in Liverpool right now. So huge thanks for you joining me.
no problem. Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye for the moment.